You remember it, don't you? The hush of those wide-carpeted aisles, the squeak of a shopping cart, and that smell somewhere between popcorn, fresh plastic, and new shoes. Back then, department stores weren't just about shopping. They were our weekend outings, our back-to-school rituals, our Christmas memories. But a lot of those big names we once knew, gone now. Just empty buildings, or stories we tell over coffee. Today on RetroNest, we're looking back at 10 forgotten department store chains that once ruled America. 1. Woolworths, the king of the 5 and dimes. If you walked into a Woolworths, chances are you could find anything: socks, goldfish, nail polish, and a grilled cheese sandwich, all in one visit. It started way back in 1879. What made it special wasn't just the stuff, it was the experience. Those lunch counters became a part of civil rights history. But as the malls took over and the giants got bigger, Woolworths slowly faded out. By the late 90s, the last store shut its doors, and a little piece of America went with it. 2. Montgomery Ward, the catalog that built small-town dreams. Before there was online shopping, there was the Ward's catalog. It came in the mail like a brick, and kids would circle toys while their parents ordered tools or kitchen sets. Started in 1872, Montgomery Ward brought city goods to country folks. Later, they opened stores too, but the world moved faster than they could. Walmart, Target, Amazon. Montgomery Ward didn't stand a chance. 3. Ames, the little store that almost made it. If you grew up in a small town, you probably had an Ames nearby. It wasn't fancy, but it had what you needed. It started in Massachusetts in 1958 and grew fast. Too fast. After taking on too much and too many, it crumbled. By 2002, Ames was gone, leaving behind empty plazas and a lot of childhood memories. 4. Zayre, bright lights, big bargains. Zayre was loud, colorful, and full of deals. If you were a kid in the 70s or 80s, walking into Zayre felt like stepping into a carnival of clothes and clutter. It wasn't polished, but it had character. Eventually, most of the stores turned into TJ Maxx locations. The name disappeared, but a piece of it still lives on in every clearance rack. 5. Hills, where the toy aisle was everything. You didn't go to Hills for groceries. You went there for bikes, for Barbies, for that one action figure you prayed would still be on the shelf. Started in Ohio, Hills was the place where Christmas started early. But in the end, it got bought by Ames, and well, we know how that ended. Still, if you ever held a Hills flyer in your hand, you remember the magic. 6. Kresge. Before it was Kmart, it was Kresge. Founded in 1899, Kresge stores were prim, proper, and polished. The floors were clean. The workers wore ties, and the lunch counters, timeless. Eventually, Kresge evolved into Kmart, and the old name disappeared. But ask your grandparents, and they'll tell you, Kresge was a class act. 7. Mervyn's, California cool at a good price. Mervyn's felt different, laid back, affordable, friendly. It was where you bought your Levi's before school and grabbed socks on the way out. Started in California in 1949. It grew fast, but corporate hands pushed it too far. By 2008, Mervyn's was gone, and another middle-class tradition quietly faded out. 8. Marshall Field's, Chicago's crown jewel. Field's wasn't just a department store. It was an experience. Tiffany ceilings, walnut counters, escalators that felt like elevators to heaven. Founded in the 1850s, Marshall Field's was elegance wrapped in holiday wrapping paper. But when Macy's bought it out in 2006, something changed. To Chicagoans, it felt like losing a piece of their soul. 9. Gottschalk's, California's hometown hero. If you lived in the Central Valley, you probably went to Gottschalk's. It wasn't nationwide, but it was your store. Started in Fresno in 1904. It grew slowly but surely, just like a trusted neighbor. But the recession hit hard, and by 2009, it was gone. Now, all that's left is the echo of Sunday shopping. 10. Service merchandise. Shopping with a side of suspense. This one was different. You didn't grab stuff off a shelf. You filled out a paper and waited for your item to roll down a conveyor belt like magic. Started in the 1930s, service merchandise made you feel like your new watch or stereo was special. But by the time online shopping took over, its time had passed. Still, if you remember that buzz when your box arrived from the back, you know how special it was. We didn't just shop in these places. We grew up in them. We held our parents' hands through the aisles. We tried on our first school shoes. We watched the holidays come alive under their lights. Now, they're gone. But the memories? They're still right here. Which store do you remember most? Tell us in the comments. And if you enjoyed this walk through the past, like the video, hit that subscribe button, And join us for more stories from a time when life was just a little slower and stores smelled like popcorn and possibilities. This is RetroNest, and we'll see you next time.